I told my son's girlfriend to break up with him story. I, a 41-year-old woman, have a son, 20, who has been in a relationship with his girlfriend, Lily, 20, for about 3 years now. I love my son, and I hate to say this, but he's not turned out to be a good person. He has very little work ethic, has no desire to get a job or go to college, and spends most of his time gaming or partying. Lily, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. She's very studious, has aspirations to be a doctor, is a very good swimmer, and is currently away at college. When my son and Lily first got together in high school, they were an excellent match. We loved having Lily over, and my son definitely took more care of himself. Since then, it's rapidly deteriorated. I know my son still loves Lily, but he never gives her the attention she deserves, and with her clear potential, I just feel she deserves better. When Lily came to visit a few days ago, she was visibly upset. When my son went to the store, I asked her if she was okay, and she told me that she didn't know what to do and wondered why my son had such little ambition and was so lazy. I told her I didn't see it changing anytime soon, as that's my view given it's been ongoing for almost 2 years. When she asked what I would do in her situation, I told her to put herself first and what she wanted. Lily thanked me and said she'd think about things. Well, earlier today, my son came downstairs in a rage, telling me that Lily had broken up with him via text. I asked him what she said, and apparently, the message referred to discussions with your mom that had made her rethink the relationship. My son was livid that I'd gotten involved and said I'd overstepped boundaries. I told him that I didn't advise Lily to leave him, just said she had to make her own choices and decide what was best for her. My son is now not talking to me, and my husband is annoyed, believing that having no Lily will make my son's rut last even longer. I also miss having Lily around. So, am I an a-hole? Response 1. Not the a-hole. You didn't tell her to end the relationship. You told her to consider her needs. Your son certainly wasn't. Tell your husband it isn't up to Lily to get your son out of his rut, and maybe he needs to spend more time teaching him how to be a good man and not a mooch. Let your son be angry. He will do one of two things: stay angry or get off his butt and start pulling his own weight. Too many young adults have little to no aspirations and are more concerned with living in the moment. Reply 1. Husband should really back off of volunteering Lily to be his son's emotional support animal. Pretty dehumanizing to be reduced to the cure for the son's apathy, laziness, and selfishness. She is her own person with her own wants and dreams, not the manic pixie dream girl who comes in to save a man from himself. Reply 2. Yes, no wonder her son has no ambition and expects his girlfriend to do all the emotional labor in the relationship. He learned it from his father. Reply 3. Yeah, I saw that in my husband. His dad worked and took care of the lawn. His mom did literally everything else. That's how my husband and his brother were and are. At the start of our relationship, I laid down hard boundaries and said I wouldn't waste my youth on him not being a partner. Step up or leave, and I refused to marry him until we pulled equal weight in all aspects of life. Don't get me wrong, I know there are some places I slack and some he does. We balance each other out though. We waited nearly 10 years before getting married because I wanted to ensure habits stuck. His brother, well, when his mom asked me to set him up with one of my friends, I laughed hard. My husband is lazy at times, but mellow, 15 years old, and he's never really raised his voice or anything. His bro, who is the eldest, didn't have that mellow attitude. He can be mean and lazy. I told her, sorry, but I like having friends and I would never do that to them. She tried to change my mind, but I held my ground with her about that. Reply 4. What would really kick his backside into gear is telling him he gets a job and finds his own place to be an adult, or he'll be homeless then to stick to it. He's been coddled for way too long and needs a harsh introduction to what the real world is like. Reply 5. Why is a 20-year-old allowed to live in the home where he just vegs out? Time to pack his stuff and give him a deadline of eviction day. Get a job. Get 2 jobs. You either contribute to help pay for your room and board, or you leave. Letting him stay and not work isn't helping him mature. The scary thing is, these are the kids who are allowed to vote and make decisions that affect us all. Reply 6. Mine was informed of the choice to be made after graduation of job and nominal rent, utilities included, and cover his own expenses, like gas and car insurance, or go to school, CC, trade, whatever, and live at home expenses free, with the obvious caveat that school would mean rent-free for the summer as well. Or he could do a hybrid of school and work, which would also mean no rent but cover his own expenses. He had no interest in school and got a job at McD's where he was excelling. Then he got a job as a contractor, and his dad worked for even more money the next year. He took on a loan payment to the bank of Dad for a new rig. On his own choice, he also started covering his own groceries. He moved out within that year and has been growing as an adult by leaps and bounds ever since. I'm incredibly proud of him on the daily. He took on a second rig loan from the bank of Dad to buy a better daily driver, as well as a personal loan for fixing up rig number 1. But now, 3 years later, he's completely paid all of them off. Not the a-hole OP. Your husband has failed to launch his son and is now blaming the womenfolk. Rethink what's best for you, i.e., take your own advice that you gave to Lily, and good luck. Response 2. Not the a-hole. You didn't tell her to break up with him. You told her she needs to put herself first, which is solid advice to anybody. The fact that putting herself first meant breaking up with your son is his issue for being a waste of space. Your husband can also get in the bin expecting Lily to get him out of his rut. If it's that simple, he can get involved and sort it. He's his son. Besides, who knows? Maybe this will be the kick in the arse he needs to sort himself out and win her back. Unlikely, as this isn't a rom-com, but never say never. Reply 1. My high school boyfriend was abusive and terrible with violence issues. His parents were amazing to me. They wanted me to deal with him for them. His little brother told me to run. Everyone else in the family wanted me to stay. Having just that one reality check when I was deep in it made all the difference, and I was able to get out. Reply 2. Yes, sadly, some families know their kids suck, but they see a good person come into their lives and want them to stay because they think the good person will change their kid's family member. It doesn't work that way. Glad you got away and the brother helped you see the light. Reply 3. I've had that happen a couple of times. My first real BF turned into a raging a-hole when 2 of his dreams fizzled out. One was his own fault, and I broke up with him when I didn't want to be his emotional punching bag anymore. His mom apparently thought I needed to marry him and have babies, so he would be happy without effort on his end. The other BF was laid off from his really good job, but decided he could be extremely picky and live off unemployment in his parents' basement for 18 months as a 30-something without a job. I decided that wasn't working for me and broke up with him. His mom called me a whore and hoped I would drag him back into society. He did that himself after I dumped him. Reply 4. Sometimes being dumped is what you need. Being brutally broken up via text was a wake-up call for me. I didn't know what I had done wrong, but it motivated me to figure out how to be better. That process led me to realize how much I had dismissed emotional needs in general. Not just hers, but mine as well. My girlfriend, now wife, was the one that gave me a therapy ultimatum. I would have refused on a rebellious principle if I hadn't just dealt with the brutal realization of how emotionally underdeveloped I was. Reply 5. I definitely dated a guy when I was around that age who expected me to do his emotional heavy lifting and stayed for a long time because I was so busy focusing on his needs. His dad was a manipulative, abusive prick that I didn't see how I was neglecting my own. When I finally realized that I was doing emotional work that should have been his, I broke up with him, and it was the best thing for both of us. After a few months of begging me to take him back, he started going to therapy and eventually sincerely apologized to me for his selfish behavior. A few years later, he and his mom finally got real about his dad's abusive behavior and repaired their relationship. From a casual FB acquaintance distance, he seems to have done the work he was using me as an excuse to avoid when he was in his early 20s. What I'm saying is that OP's son is mad now, but this may finally cause him to reevaluate his life choices and get his act together, but it may also be a long road. For whatever reason, 20-something guys seem to need an awful lot of motivation to get their act together and become full-fledged grown-ups. Response 3. Not the a-hole. If your son still has health insurance benefits, require him to go to 2 appointments. 1. Medical doctor for a thorough checkup. 2. Mental health professional for evaluation and enough therapy sessions to understand where he is at. Lazy can mean lots of things. Also, come up with a plan with your spouse to require your son to make progress. Reply 1. This. It sounds like the son is displaying signs of depression. Depression is a medical issue, and the son should explore his issues with a medical professional. Many people do not realize they suffer from depression. Depression does not mean that someone is suicidal or talks like Eeyore all the time. Depression is a treatable mental illness. Thank you for bringing this issue to the forefront. Reply 2. Immediately what I thought too, especially after OP said he never used to be like this. Everyone posting that he's a deadbeat and a layabout without even asking this question just goes to show why men's mental health overall is so poor. Suicide rates, for example. Not the a-hole for the advice to his GF, but OP would be the a-hole if she didn't even bother to check on her own child's mental health after noticing such a shift in his lifestyle and having potential issues highlighted to her. Reply 3. Plus, the way OP says this has been going on for 2 years, it sounds like he might not have always been this way, that this is something that developed. OP says, when my son and Lily first got together in high school, they were an excellent match. And then as that's my view, given it's been ongoing for almost 2 years. Maybe it's not depression or hypothyroidism. I had a friend growing up who developed it at 16, or some other sort of medical issue. Maybe he has just become a lazy bum, but that's what seeing a doctor to rule those things out is for. Reply 4. Yes, 2 months ago I told my parents, I am 24 Emmer, that I started therapy, and they were shocked. I have had depression since my teenage years, and I have started fighting with suicidal thoughts since last year. I decided if I didn't do anything, I would hurt a lot of people. There are a lot of parents who don't notice their struggling children, so not the a-hole for giving her advice, but he could lose his only support, and if OP won't become his new support, especially after the breakup. Reply 5. He may not be right for her, at least at this stage in their lives, and it sounds like you didn't tell her what to do. Still, I totally agree with this. The fact that he changed so much since high school is concerning and worth investigating. He could have an underlying health issue leading to chronic fatigue. He could be struggling with his mental health. He could have addiction issues. He's still young, and he might need a little extra support right now, which may be frustrating, but I definitely think you won't regret trying to figure out if something is medically wrong. Most people aren't just lazy. I think for the most part, people feel good when they are passionate about life and contributing. Response 4. No a-holes here. In this particular situation, you saved that girl from years of dragging a man through life and begging him to be an equally yoked partner. He is still young, so perhaps he will blossom and grow into a responsible adult with goals and dreams. Nihilism is a big problem with today's adults, but for now, they are on different paths and goals for life. Son is just hurt that you were involved. Totally natural. But when there is an upset young lady in your home, it is your business to check in on what's happening under your roof, at least on a general info basis. I know many women who are a second mom to many young girlfriends and boyfriends who cross their threshold even if they don't end up marrying their child. So, others may disagree, but I see you being a good auntie. You said, here's what I see, but you need to make your own choices and protect yourself. That's not bad advice for any young lady to hear. Early 20s is a very pivotal place for most women where our decisions set us up for our future. Now, your fault here is that it's your son that you raised who happens to be the unmotivated one. Perhaps see if you and dad can apply some gentle pressure to help him bloom. Maybe therapy or a doctor can help him get to the bottom of it. IDK your son, but please be careful about labeling him as not a good person if has not actively and intentionally hurt anyone. He could just be suffering, mama. Also, hubby shouldn't be relying on an ambitious girl that someone else raised right to do his job as a parent of helping his son become a healthy, well-adjusted man. That sounds harsh, but I swear I mean it with sincerity. Reply 1. All of this, and you can still be part of Lily's life, OP. Be thoughtful about your son's feelings in this, of course, but you can stay in touch with her. It sounds like she trusts and likes you. You might be a pretty important part of her support system. And just to reiterate, you are not a bad person because you are a lazy bum between the ages of 18 to 20. It's a super rough age for some people. People mature at different rates, and the transition from high school to adult life is hard. Mental health issues often pop up in the late teens, early 20s. Reply 2. I understand her frustration and disappointment, but yeah, it's just ignorance. I got so many punishments from my parents because they thought I was a teenage rebel, lazy, and intentionally forgetful at the start. Then they said, our punishments weren't working. Something else is wrong here, which their parents solved everything with switches and belts, so this was very progressive of them considering how they grew up. And you know what it was? Undiagnosed hypothyroidism. The sleepiness, the brain fog, making it hard to remember, the sudden weight gain, the depression, and the lack of motivation. Easy classic symptoms. After I got treated, Top 5% of HS class and magna cum laude in STEM degree with a husband and a house. We can't write these kids off so easily. Reply 3. That's what I think. The son doesn't sound like a bad person, but it does sound like depression. I'm not going to diagnose people, obviously, but I do hope Op hasn't just given up on her kid. There clearly is something wrong here, and I hope she is trying to help him. I don't think she's wrong in helping Lily, but I do think she's being a bit harsh on describing her son like that. Response 5. Not the a-hole. Tells your husband that Lily is not a trained professional to fix your son, and what is he even thinking trying to put that responsibility on a young girl? Maybe he should be a good father and lead by example instead of expecting that from someone else. Reply 1. Yes, husband. Lily was good for her son, but the son isn't good for Lily. My brother's wife was telling me that she thought she was going to have to divorce my brother because he just wasn't spending money wisely and wasn't working anything but a minimum wage job. I told her I got it. She was good for his life, but he wasn't so great for hers. Reply 2. The dad doesn't sound like he wants the girlfriend to do all the work. A lot of people assume that's the case, but we don't know what the dad really meant. My first thought was that the dad probably knew the GF was more likely to motivate the kid and was a positive influence overall, and now she's gone, so there is no chance. I know my GF helped me in school. If my parents took that away, I'd hate them forever. No one is seeing this from the kid's point of view in this post. A lot of people automatically assume this is the worst kid ever when the mom basically described the majority of kids that age. Reply 3. Maybe if mom had taken him to a trained professional instead of telling Lily he's not going anywhere, do what's best for you, then the situation could have turned out with a happy ending. But nope. Maybe his mother should be a good mother and worry about her son who has no ambitions. Maybe the mother should talk to her son instead of jumping to "he's not going anywhere." Calling your son a bad kid on Reddit instead of talking to him is a peak sign that she's not a good parent. Talking about your son behind his back to his girlfriend instead of sitting them together and talking it out is bad parenting. All around bad parenting, yet we're blaming the son. Reply 4. He's 20. He's too old for mommy to force him to see a doctor. But now that his rut has been disrupted, maybe he will take himself to a doctor, and OP will hopefully support him as he takes the necessary steps to address his issues. Reply 5. He's 20. His male brains don't fully develop till 25, and his parents have provided everything for him his whole life. Why would his worldview be any different? He's not going to take himself to a doctor. He's going to fall into the rut harder. More parties, more drinking. People always retreat into the things they know best. His parents didn't teach him crap, so this is all he knows. All OP does is support him. She supports him in doing whatever he wants while she says nothing. That's called an enabler. The appropriate necessary steps could have been taken before she convinced her son's GF to do what's best. GF was frustrated and wanted advice on how to help her son, and she went straight to "do what's best for you. He's not doing anything." She doesn't even think her son will change because she made him to be that way. She could have helped before helping his worried girlfriend leave him. She could have done anything the whole time, but this was her first step. Bad parenting. Reply 6. And neither do women, yet Lily seems like a smart young woman with her undeveloped brain and shouldn't stay with a man who can't take care of himself. Also, you can't force a legal adult to seek a mental health professional if they don't want to. Reply 7. I actually found out through newer research that it can be later than that for both sexes, as well as through deeper thought. I came to the conclusion it definitely depends on outside factors as well. We consider 18-year-olds adults almost 10 years before they can think like one. Reply 8. Basically, in your mind, Lily should have stayed and taken care of the son till he came out of his rut, which could have been in his 30s. But who cares about her right? As long as he is being taken care of by Lily, that's all that matters. She is supporting him and ruining her young life, all to make him not get his poor little feelers hurt. Response 6. Not the a-hole. Chances are, the GF would have broken up with him anyway eventually, and any protests on your part would have just delayed the inevitable. You did the right thing by supporting her as a person and not sacrificing her in the name of your son's well-being. Hopefully, there is a lesson in this for your son that his choices have consequences and perhaps even be the spark that gets him going. Reply 1. I was thinking this as well. Lily must have already had doubts about speaking to OP about it. It's not like OP said something first, which then made Lily realize the situation. Lily already had the thoughts. Response 7. Not the a-hole. Your husband is, though. He wanted Lily to stay around being dragged down to make your son feel better. It is your son's behavior that has caused the breakup. Reply 1. Well, I can get that the husband probably hoped having a girlfriend might make him finally clue in if he needs to do something with his life. But that's just stupid and naive. It's not her job to fix him or be dragged down by his dead weight. I hope Lily does well in her goals. Response 8. You're the a-hole for your attitude towards your son. Having no work ethic or ambition does not make him a bad person. Most likely, he is depressed, maybe even neurodivergent. Have you considered maybe being more encouraging instead of acting like he is beyond repair? Reply 1. I'm reading all these comments, and it's honestly a real kick in the teeth. I currently identify with the son. I've finished university, and now I'm back at home with absolutely nowhere to turn to. I'm looking for a job, but nowhere seems to accept me. My ex broke up with me for a similar reason. He didn't feel like he was in a proper partnership. And now, from all these comments, I feel like I'm a waste of space. Reply 2. Oddly enough, there's another post I just read where a guy broke up with his girlfriend of 9 years because she had no ambition, and the commenters' opinions there are very different. Basically telling him that he's an idiot for breaking up with her over that. I sure do wonder what the difference is. Reply 3. I'm a feminist woman, but even I have to admit this place is heavily biased in favor of women and against men. Plus, not very empathetic in general. Reply 4. I have no issue with the girlfriend dumping the son. She was clearly unhappy, and the relationship had run its course. However, OP's attitude towards her own son is pretty stuff, and she's being applauded for it. There's no guarantee that there's anything medically wrong with the guy, but it's weird that he seems to have changed drastically a couple of years ago, and nobody seems to give a toss as to why. Then people wonder why men's mental health is in the crapper. Reply 5. Everyone is saying she didn't tell her to break up with him, but having your boyfriend's mom talk negatively about the boyfriend heavily tips the scales. She's trying to have plausible deniability. Even if you absolutely think that the girl is better off without the son, you should say nothing. She has her own mom and her own friends to help her make the decision. Meanwhile, you've messed up your relationship with your own son. Any girlfriend he manages to get again in the future is not going to see you anytime soon. Maybe he deserved to get dumped for not being as motivated as the girlfriend. But is being correct worth the years of distrust you bought yourself? Reply 6. Yeah, she hates her son and loves Lily. It's sorta sad. I went through a similar situation with my mom and one of my sisters. Funny enough, they're both very dumb people I don't get along with, and my mom's is a narcissist and has resented me since I was born, so it figures. We broke up for different reasons, though. I mean, I think Lily did the right thing for her, but the mom absolutely should have stayed out of it. The son will hate her now, maybe as much as she hates him. Response 9. The more I think about it, the more I feel you're the a-hole. First off, your son is allowed to be mad. Maybe you didn't tell her to break up with him, and maybe she would have gotten there on her own, but she still cited your conversation as a factor. So from your son's POV, you did cross boundaries. You were meddling in his love life. Second, the way you talk up Lily and down your son just feels wrong to me as a parent. You sound like you want Lily as a daughter instead of your son, which ties in with the third part. It sounds like your son has depression or something else going on. So you encouraged part of his support system to leave him when he may have needed her the most. Yeah, it's not her job to fix him, but we help the people we love, even if it's a little extra effort for us. And you'd think you as his mother would want him to get that help. You never mentioned anything in the original post about mental health stuff, so it sounds like that never crossed your mind, which kind of makes you the a-hole on its own. I don't think you meant any harm, and maybe it was what was best for Lily, but you aren't really where she should be getting this advice. Reply 1. She actually called her own son a bad person. Reply 2. For not being a driven, motivated person at 20. Damn. Response 10. Remind your husband that it is not Lily's job to fix your son, and she can't, even if she wants to. If she could, she would have done so by now. Your son has a hard lesson to learn here. Relationships require maintenance, and he is not owed infinite patience from his partners. If he checks out and stops trying, he has to accept the possibility that they will leave him. If he does not want the relationship to end, he needs to do what's required to take care of himself, so that he has the bandwidth necessary to maintain a connection with his partner. A girlfriend is not a trophy that will happily collect dust on a shelf until he decides to pick her up again. Not the a-hole. The advice you gave Lily is the advice you'd give any young person who's faced with such a problem. The fact that she was your son's girlfriend does not change the wisdom of that advice, and you did not make her do anything she didn't want to do. If she'd wanted to remain in the relationship, she would have. And surely your son and husband aren't suggesting that she should have remained in a relationship against her will, or that you should have pressured her to do so. Surely not. Reply 1. It is sound advice at any age. The girlfriend wasn't a professional being paid to care for the lazy son. She doesn't own nor deserve to stay in the relationship. A partnership is an exchange. Obviously, the son isn't worth it. Sounds like a delusional young one who got used to taking without giving, forgetting others have the right to decide when they are done with the unfairness.